all of her information, a very interesting perspective she has that she'll be sharing with us about conspiracy theories, about the nature of reality, about the nature of all that is around us. Is there anything in particular you'd like to start with, my friend?
I wasn't really sure how we were going to go about doing this, if it was just going to be us talking or bringing up people, but I do want to start by the people that are in here.
All right.
Just talking about why I feel like conspiracies are even important, right? Because I get that it can be like, why even care about that stuff? And especially for a lot of people that are on a spiritual journey, which I think most of us are, that are even clicking on this live. Um, but it's really important because it takes you deeper, right? Um, I'm a little nervous, so let me just kind
Oh,
of
that's all right. Take your time. There is no rush. Would you like to perhaps start with some deep breaths, you and I, that we can all take together?
wait. What do you say? Oh, wait. What do you say?
I said, would you like to start with some deep breaths that we can all take together?
Before this, I'm a bit calmer than I was, but we
Okay.
can definitely take some deep breaths.
All right. Well, how about I grab my little singing bowl here and we can all join together in taking three deep, powerful, calming breaths, like the waves in the sea, like the desert winds, simply in and out all together, melding together, calming each other, fusing our energy. Nice and deep. And allow yourself to know that all is well here. There is no one to impress. And consider, if you will, that we are like children on a playground, simply being ourselves. Well, thank you for doing that.
Woo! Feel just refreshed.
Oh, good. So, the idea of conspiracies and why it's important specifically to spiritual journeys.
Yeah, so I think first off, I think that's how a lot of people's journey just even starts is through conspiracies, right? Learning that everything you see really might not be what you know, and just going through down those rabbit holes. And they allow these conspiracies to happen because a lot of people get stuck and they stay focused on the conspiracies when in reality the point of it is to go deeper within yourself and just go on the deeper part of the spirituality, not just the conspiracies. But it's definitely important to understand that hmm, I'm not gonna say everything, but maybe all of history that you know, anything about yourself and who you even are, it has not been what you've been told. And yeah, that really helps start the journey to figuring that out. And yeah, so that's why it's
All right.
important.
Yes, I agree.
Why do you think it's
Many
important?
of what we call conspiracy theories allow for questions, introspective questions, the idea of something more mysterious than we've been taught, than we've been told, than perhaps we have considered ourselves. So, conspiracy theories can be a fantastic catalyst for people to do deeper questioning, deeper understanding. Thank you for taking these steps.
What is your take on conspiracies?
Oh, well, what I just said, they can be a great tool for people to allow themselves to open up in a way that perhaps other things do not allow, like religion or formal education, or simply the idea of different types of books or perspectives. Sometimes being a little skeptical in that way, being a little curious about the mysteries of what's going on, can be of great service in someone discovering more of what's going on within them,
For
as
sure.
long as we don't take it as something to add to our fear centers, our fear based and negative belief systems, allowing ourselves to know that we can grow on our knowledge, grow in our understanding of ourselves and others and this co created reality, while recognizing that anything we don't prefer, we can simply change or step away from.
Yeah, and I just want to tap on that fear and hate, right? It's been scientifically proven that it's the lowest frequency that you can have, and authenticity and love is the highest. And even to dive into these conspiracies, I get and I understand that it is no choice but for it to get a bit spooky at times and for you to feel like, oh dang, maybe what is happening, what is going on around us. But I lost my train of thought there. But realizing that there's nothing to be fearful of. If anything, it's honestly quite better to know these things and to be able to have your own discernment and to be able to look with your own eye, look with your own, just point of view and be able to almost lift the veil and be able to see the lies that has happened. Um, no snap, I don't know what happened, but yeah, that is why it's important, guys. But yeah, I'm gonna wait for it to reconnect. Um, we live in an abundant world filled with trillions of self-realized
Hello,
people.
can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you went out for a second.
Okay, I thought you went out for a second. Perhaps it was me.
Oh, maybe on both ends. It just puts you on pause, or I don't know. It said reconnecting.
Yes, same. All right, it seems we're good now. You were talking about, sorry, it cut halfway through, and you were just talking about your experience with fear and hatred and how those are the lowest frequencies and vibrations and how authenticity and love are the highest.
Oh yeah, and I was just saying that if anything, to know about these conspiracies is honestly more not frightening than not knowing about it. You're able to use your own discernment. You're able to see with your own eyes, see, lift the veil and be able to see the world for what it truly is and be able to know so much about yourself. And it will get spooky at times, right? But it just takes you on a beautiful journey and you learn so much about yourself, which is what the Bible talks about and so many different things. Um, but yeah,
And
so
there's nothing wrong with a little bit of spooky in this season. Nothing wrong with a little bit of creepy mystery. You'll only ever find more of yourself in all that darkness.
that's the duality. Everything in this world is duality. It's always going to be light, dark, bad, good. However you want to look at it, the yin, the yang. It's female, male. Whatever you want to look at it, it will always happen. It will always be there, no matter how much. Right when people talk about um, just shadow work and trying to always be their higher self, that is that because we have that choice because we are both, right? Like so, it'll always be there. Um, but yeah, let's get into some conspiracies. I'll let you kind of start on one if you want.
Well, if I'm being honest, I don't really have any particular conspiracy theories that I have always thought were true necessarily. Everything that you could call, from my perspective, or that you could call a conspiracy, I don't think is necessarily a conspiracy. I think it's simply something that many people either are not aware of or don't have much information on. For example, our involvement with extraterrestrial races. I do absolutely believe that our government has had contact with extraterrestrial races, not in the sense that we have a telephone and they have a telephone and we're in contact with their world, but that they have visited us and that there have been ships that have crash landed, as they would say, and we have had intimate conversations with extraterrestrials and worked on their ships and reverse engineering their ships. So you could call that a conspiracy theory, but I feel, as we've seen in the past few years, our government is becoming more and more lax about sharing that information, you understand?
For sure, and it goes back to it's because a lot of people get stuck in the conspiracy phase. It's what I call it, the beginning phase of spirituality, and they hate the government, right? And it's always directed towards the government. But when you get past that and you learn that a lot of what you are seeing is meant, it's part of the program, and they knew this. They're always two steps ahead, right? Like the guy on TikTok, like they know exactly what's going to happen because it's a program and it was meant to happen. And there's a lot of books written on this. But they're allowing it to happen because they very much know that people stay stuck in that I'm mad at the government, anger, all these emotions. It doesn't matter. Emotion is energy, and they fuel off of that. Um, so that's why they let it be lax, right? Because they know that we're in a shift, we're in an awakening period right now, right? Just based off the stars, it's gonna happen. We're in an age of Aquarius. So more and more people are waking up just consciously, and when one person wakes up, it wakes up the collective, and they understand this. So they really know they don't have a choice, but it's so important for people to not get stuck and to really like get past the conspiracies and to dive deeper into yourself and to learning the science about the body and the mind and um, just who we are, like in my opinion. But yeah, that's
I
why
completely agree. Do you have any particular favorite conspiracy theories that you'd like to start us off with?
we have a million. Um, And I also agree. I don't think that they're conspiracies. I think they're truth, but I will use the word conspiracy because obviously it's just what will resonate with people and help them understand. And not everybody believes them, so I'm not trying to say it's whatever. Um, but there's tons. I'll kind of like read through my chat, or maybe if your chat has any. I have a bunch
Well,
here.
someone in mine brought up flat Earth. I know that you subscribe to this idea. Would you like to explain your perspective?
I do. So I won't say I know too much about it, right? But I will talk a little bit about what I've learned and what I think, and just based off of my own um, experience, just looking at the stars in the sky and watching the moon cycle every single day. And like, um, so a long time ago, it was a philosopher named Thales, and he was like kind of the first one who introduced kind of flat earth and was like, maybe the sun and the moon are kind of like rotating around us and we're kind of like stationary, right? So I wouldn't say necessarily I believe it's just, oh, we're just completely flat like a piece of paper, but I don't think it's a globe. I think we're stationary, and I think the stars and stuff are always rotating around us. I don't know if anybody's been to a planetarium, but it's almost like if you've been to that, it's exactly like that. um, but yeah, so he was the first one who kind of introduced it and was like, he was just walking one day and he was looking up and he was like, and they started to observe the stars and they noticed that the stars stay in the same place every single day. Um, oh snap, somebody's trying to join. But, and right, and science will tell you, oh, it's because it only moves this much, right? The thing, before you get into these things, you kind of have to dive into who's coming out with this information, who is in charge of history, who is in charge of the information we get, the science that's put out, right? Because there's scientists that believe and there's scientists that isn't, and a lot of times the scientists that are going along with the agenda will be the ones pushed out because it goes along with it, right? So yeah, but there's just tons of pictures and um, philosophers and scientists that believe that the Earth is flat and that it's a was it a heliocentric, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that we are just stationary, right? I said I don't have too much, it's just my thoughts, and I think that the sun and moon are constantly rotating around us. And if you're watching, I have some videos on my page where I talk about the Bible, and this all ties into it, right? The sun and the moon are feminine and masculine energy. It's what gives life to everything on the planet. Um, and the stars and us we're the microcosm of the macrocosm. So everything that's happening above us, right, rotating around us, is an influence, and it has influence on what happens here. So when you dive into all that stuff and you learn like who runs the world, and a long time ago, the Rockefellers, right? They invested. His biggest investment ever was in his own company, and it was the Rockefeller Foundation. So he took charge of 7 things, and this is way back in the day, right? Um, like
What is way back in the day?
we're talking 1600s, 1700s. These
Okay.
families have been, right, and this is all proof. You can pull up newspaper articles of these families still running the world, which cool, do your thing, but it's important to know these things. Um, but yeah, so they 5 things just off rip that the foundation was to start putting their money towards and start hiring people to um, just research and look up was public health, medical, scientific research, education, and global like stuff. So global warming and all these things. So when we look at who hmm, starts to have influence and power over what we see, our history books, right? The Rockefellers are the ones who created all the schools. He has a quote that says, I don't want a world of thinkers, I want a world of workers. So just the science, you can understand that maybe you just don't know everything. Maybe what's being pushed and what's being taught to you and what's the normal, it doesn't mean that it's true. It just means that that is simply what has been told to you, right? And it goes back to what Plato talks about, and I talk about it in a lot of my videos. He talks about how, people are in the chains, and he talks about how all they see is these fire and the shadows. And one person gets released, and he realizes that, oh wait, these shadows it's not what we think. There's sun out here, there's this world, there's all these things that we don't even know about. And so at the end, he has a conversation with Socrates, which is another philosopher, and he just talks about how it doesn't matter how much we try to make these people wake up or see. will they not still believe all that they've been told? So it just goes back to show that when, from the time you're young, you're that is your identity now. So when somebody says flat earth and all you know is globe, you don't even have facts, or people won't even have facts. It's just their identity and what they've been told. So they automatically, their ego automatically gets triggered, because right, nobody wants to feel like they don't know something. So I'm not saying flat earth is true. I'm just saying that kind of helped me understand and get deeper into my belief, because it was one of the things that took me forever to start to understand. But yeah.
Why would someone lie about the shape of the earth? What would they gain from this?
So if right, if we create the Big Bang theory and we make people, it makes us start to think, oh, maybe we don't have a purpose here. Maybe we don't. When in actuality we do. We came here for a reason. We chose to come here. It's a Earth school, and so it creates this whole illusion. It starts to be. We can start this whole new narrative on how the world works, right? Because you have to remember, at a certain point in time, especially in the Egyptian time, which is where the Bible comes from and all this stuff. Um, they all knew this. They all worshiped the sun and the stars, and they knew that they had an influence on us. This just goes back way back before even the Bible or anything. And they took this history but wanted to erase it, because that's how we continue to enslave the people and keep them in the program. We don't want them to evolve. We don't want them to be who they truly are. We don't want them to know these things about themselves. And that's why they do that, because they don't want you to know the power within yourself. Um, so yeah.
Okay, what about the idea of the astronauts who have gone to space and taken pictures of the globe? Do you think all this to be fabricated as well?
Oh yeah, that's in my notes as well. So we have to remember, a lot of these families are working together. A lot of them are Masonic families, and really the Masonic families really just, they know all this stuff about the earth and about the Bible and what it's really teaching, and they know this stuff. So they all, like, there's a group of people, and there's a book called The Committee of 300, but it talks
Okay.
about how in the 1900s, and even before that, he just wrote in the 1900s. He talks about how he's been working on this for years, and just how he was a CIA director, and he came across some files, and he said he was so enraged, like, by the agenda that was put forth, right? Because like I said, they always have agendas planned. There's a book called Pale Horse. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but long, long time ago, like years ago, I read it. Great. He talks about this as well. But there have been people that run this world that still do, that have an agenda to continue to enslave the people, right? We're talking about mind slave. We're not talking about anymore about just what they've done to black people or Native Americans. We're talking about mentally enslaving everybody now, like putting them in this program, the religion program, all these different programs, the 9 to 5, the rat race. So what they did in that book, he just talks about how they placed different families. Talks about the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, multiple families across the world, in different parts of the world. So when people are like, how is this happening? How can so many people keep secrets? This is how. They place these families in so many different parts of the world, and it's all an illusion. We never get to pick who we really want in office. They're going to put up forth who they've always wanted to, right? That's why all the presidents are related. And I know I'm going all over the place, but back to the pictures. Yeah, if you just take a look at the moon landing yourself, let's start with the moon landing. Use your own
Can I
device.
ask, with this perspective, is the moon and sun flat as well? Or are they globes?
So I think that the moon and all the planets and the sun is not a planet. I believe that it's a frequency.
Okay.
The images that we see, I think that they are all CGI. And there actually was a camera where people, it was like the Nikon something, where people were able to see that it was actually frequencies, but it is now taken off, and you can't have that camera anymore. But so yeah, that is my theory on that. I think that
What do you mean by frequency, though?
so I think that they're frequencies, luminary lights that have a influence on us. So what happens up there is influencing our lives, and right, it goes back to the zodiacs. So when astrology is really real, because that's really happening up there, as above, so below. Um, so just anything, when the sun takes its path through Saturn, for instance, right? That's about lessons, right? In your life, if you're needing to learn lessons, because everything is about, we're learning here. Um, it's going to start teaching you lessons. You're going to start seeing things like karma happen in your life, or right, because it's to help you grow. It's never in a bad way, but it always has influence, right? Let's say the sun's going through Venus. Um, now it's going to influence your love life in a way. It's going to influence the relationships. It's going to influence so many different things. But that's what I mean by a frequency, right?
If
Everything.
you could describe what it looked like physically, because I'm having a difficult time imagining what
Let me
it looks like physically
let me see if I can pull.
compared to my current model of the solar system.
Let me see if I can pull up a picture.
All right.
But really, just like frequencies, right? If you would zoom in, you would just see like waves, like frequency waves, right?
Okay.
Um, not like
And the projection of the moon and the sun, are they on a giant screen of some kind?
no, I don't think that they're on a giant screen. I think that they're part of the seven luminary lights that the Bible also talks about. That has an influence on us. I think that it's just part of it. If you would think about it like a huge just ceiling above us, we're
Okay.
still in a huge ceiling that has like holes, and like frequencies are just shooting through these holes. So you have the moon, the sun, and their planets, and they're always rotating, always how they're supposed to, right? The sun and the moon always make a figure eight in the sky. That's where we get the infinity symbol from. It makes a sun sign wave, and that's where the serpent is talking about in the Bible. So all this stuff is really interesting, but I can't really find a. Okay, this is kind of like it.
Well, you've done a fantastic job at describing it with the idea of there being holes and there
But
being frequency energy going through those holes. All
more
right.
like this instead, if that
And
kind of
so it just looks like a particular pattern to our human eyes.
for sure. And you have to remember, we only see. I was literally just reading about this today in the book, but we only see like 0.13%, right? Because
Of all light.
see is not reality. It's filtered so much stuff, and that's why when a lot of people do psychedelics, or if you go through just a Kundalini awakening, just maybe through meditation or something, you can start to experience, start to even see the real world, almost like birds, or right, because they see vibrant lights, they see vivid lights that we couldn't even imagine to be able to see with just our physical eyes. So a lot of reality, what we see is just a smidget of what reality really is.
Okay. Can I ask where this plane of existence is, if there is what you would call a type of dome or ceiling, and these holes of different configurations that affect us? Where is this experience happening in creation?
So I don't think of it like that. I don't know how to
Okay.
explain that part. That's like super hard for me, but I do think that I don't think it's ever like this is the only time I think that we're in matter form, right? I think when you go through those seven luminary lights, that is when matter starts to happen. You go from spirit to matter. So when we die, I think we go straight back to spirit and consciousness is what I call it. So even without this, I don't. I think this is a projection of the mind in a way. I think it you can call it almost like just that, a projection, almost like a movie, something we're correct, quite literally creating with our minds.
Okay.
But I think when we do go back to just pure consciousness, um, I don't know where I think you go back to, but I think that it's not human form, and I think it's just the all knowing. You go back to just what I call God, because I think we're all God, and that you just go back to that. Maybe you call it a huge quilt of all of us, but
Okay.
just go back to that. I think so. I don't think we really think about, or I don't
Do you
know.
believe that there are other versions of this that we would call aliens or extraterrestrials, other dimensions where the experience is a similar focus of consciousness through these ideas of lights?
So I think that there's infinite realities of the one that we're in, and that is how quantum jumping happens, or being able to manifest, right? Because it is all already here. It's just tapping into that frequency once again, right? Like a radio station. You can tap into any different radio station. It's all there. You just have to align with that and get your own frequency aligned with that. So I think there's infinite possibilities right now. But right, I think in one life I am maybe I don't know, traveling in a van somewhere, living my just best life, like
That's
so
interesting. You should say that. That's what I'll be doing soon now.
hopefully soon me too, when my daughter gets a little older, but yeah, I think there's infinite.
Perhaps we will meet each other out there.
Oh, definitely, maybe go on a hike.
Oh, that sounds exciting.
But yeah, so that's my take on that. Really, I don't really think there's other places. I think Earth is a lesson, like a school for to just grow your consciousness and evolve and be more Christ conscious like. And I think the more and more you come back is the more and more you evolve. And I think that's why, we do have things like people being able to recall past lives, and we have people that are just even, they have
Mhm.
professionals that can do that and tap into that kind of thing. And, but yeah, I don't know. I think I forgot what I was saying, but yeah.
Oh, that's okay. You're doing quite well. Can I ask if you're still nervous?
Mm, no, but that always happens, let me tell you. Even if I have to talk in class, my philosophy class, I get so nervous at first, but it always just comes out. It's just who I am.
Are you sure? Is that who you prefer to be?
Oh no, I mean it's not really who I am, but it's just me needing to work on my like just throat chakra and just needing to be more confident. It's not that I'm not confident. I think it's just nervous for anybody to always come on and even just talk about their point of view, or it, in my opinion, it's for me it's nerve wracking to just especially
Why
when
do
I'm
you think that is?
views. Um, wait, what'd you say?
I said, why do you think that is? Why do you think it brings up your nerves so much?
Probably because I just need to be more confident in what I say and understand that I've put in the work and that but that's just come with the past year, just realizing that, and that will happen with a lot of people in spiritual awakening. You'll just go through this cycle where you feel like, oh wait, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, and maybe
I
um,
see.
go through a little bit of a psychosis. But
Are you
honestly,
afraid that people will think you're crazy?
no, no, no,
Oh,
no.
who is this girl? She's crazy. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
No, it's not even. I don't even want to come off as. It's never an opinion of what I think other people are gonna think of me. It's quite simply just nerves I kind of can't really control. I just get a little nervous at first, and I guess that comes from shyness. I'm more of like an introvert than an extrovert, but yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again for sharing so much about the idea of the flat earth. Is there anything else in particular you'd like to share about this idea? Because I've never heard it put exactly like this. Can I ask if somehow, or rather, let's say there is the potential that it is a globe, or even maybe another shape and altogether a cube. That would be interesting. Um, what evidence, if any, would you take in order to quote unquote prove this to you? And it's okay if the answer is none.
So the thing with me is that I am always open minded. I never think that I'm just fully right on something. But when my like by path, just all the things lead to the same thing for me, which is the Bible, not even just that, mythology, and taking it into just even the riddles, every single riddle, Red Robin Hood, knowing that they're all, and doing the work to find out that they're all talking about the same thing metaphorically. And to know that, wow, they really thought so deep about this stuff. And even Da Vinci's paintings, they're all talking about the same thing. And you wonder why these things are so popular and people still talked about to this day. And it's like, because these people know. So really, it's not about any kind of like scientific evidence. And maybe if right, if
Oh, it doesn't have to be scientific, just any evidence at all. If you were to say have a psychedelic experience where you spoke to some entities who were like, it's round, ah, would you believe them?
so what I think happens a lot of time with psychedelics is that it's the same thing that happens with reality. A lot of times, why you'll have a kind of a bad trip is because it's quite literally a projection of your mind, and it's what you need to work on with yourself. So if I was to start hallucinating or start to see these things, or I wouldn't really call it hallucinating, I don't necessarily think that the universe has a way, in my opinion, of talking to you in a way that you will understand. So when these things happen to us, a lot of people, even religious people, will say, I've had dreams of God talking to me right in front of my face. And then you'll have other people saying so many different things. And it's like, I honestly think, in my opinion, it is a way for the universe to talk to you and be able to resonate with you in any way that it can. And it goes back to like clairaudient people or clairsentient people. When they see and they can do a reading, they're not seeing images in the form of like, oh, you're no, they're seeing symbols and images that the universe has used that will correlate with something in their life that resonates with them to help them be able to give that message. So I don't ever think that just because you see an alien in your dream or you see God, that that is what is physically true or there. I think that is more of a projection of your thoughts and your what you've already been programmed to believe in the past and what you're already into and what you already align with. So for me, just I don't really know what it would take.
All right, that's okay. Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah, I kind of just think that everything leads to the same kind of thing for me. So yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else that you wanted to share about the idea of the flat Earth?
Not really. I don't really know much about it. Not much more about it than that, or my opinion on it.
Okay, sounds like you know quite a lot, though. You know what works for you, which is why you're here to share that.
Your opinion, though, what is your take? You believe you don't really believe in flat Earth, right?
Not even a little bit, no.
A little bit. That's okay.
It's not what works for me. I believe that the that kind of secret is so unbelievably wide scale, and I think there's simply too many people on this planet who do, like us, seek and wish for the truth. That on some level, if that were to be the case, or then there would be something that would come out by now. I also believe on a scientific level, though not all quote unquote scientific things, I go, oh, well, this must be true. I believe knowledge is ever expanding. There's no perfect version of it, meaning there's no stagnant version of it. I believe that there is a lot of experiments that we've done that even a lot of flat earthers themselves say we both agree on the rules of this experiment. And if it does this, then it's flat. And if it does this, then it's round. And all that I have seen point it to being round. I also, in my perspective, recognize creation itself to be a multidimensional sphere. You understand? Because spheres have what you would call infinite sides or infinite places on it. And so I believe that everything in creation in that way, on what we would call a three-dimensional level, if not more dimensions, is spherical. What we experience when we are in space, when you have a fire or water or even enough mass, is it simply makes a ball. And so I cannot imagine the Earth being any different. It would, for me, take probably going up to space myself
Right.
and seeing Earth being flat before I believed it. Especially now, because, like you said, for so long I believed it to be a ball. And even if the government were to say, we were lying, it's flat, sorry, I'd be like, okay, well, now I can't trust you because you've been lying for so long. I'm just going to go have to see it. But regardless of whether it's flat or a globe, my dance is the same. You understand? I've come to the space to heal the space. I've come to remind people of who and what they are. So it's just not something that works for me right now, but that's okay.
For sure, but just to, for people that still do believe in the globe, one thing I want to say is to one, watch the video of the moon landing. One, and we I don't know if we should watch together, but it's once you start to I want to say once the veil is lifted, your eyes see different and you start to see everything. So when you start to look at these videos like the moon landing, you start to see I actually find it a little bit, and I don't want to I'm not trying to like I'm simply talking from my own perspective. I find it a little comical to watch at the way that it happened in the belief system, right? Because they've done multiple projects, and one of them I forget the name of it, but on how to control the people. They've done so many CIA experiments on how to control the people with just little propaganda and how to influence, right? So the moon landing was one of the biggest propaganda things that started, and it was all just a race. Who can go to the moon landing first? So let's fake it. And NASA has said that it's fake. So for people, I don't like when people don't like to accept information. NASA has once said that it is fake. So the video you are watching, whether you want to believe that it's real or not, it quite simply is fake. They said they had to redo it, so it isn't the real video. So it is fake. And then also for the ISIS videos, all you have to not ISIS for the SSI videos, the right of them up there. All you have to do is watch the videos for yourself. The pictures of their hair standing up. These people, it's a small group, right? It's not a big group like you think, like everybody working at NASA. No, it's simply the ones that's going up that know about this and that are part of the agenda, right? They get paid lots of money. Uh, Money is the root of all evil, and these people will do anything for that, right? So just watch some of these videos from the SSI and these photos, and look up clips, try to go from a different perspective and actually say, oh, SSI clips mistakes that they've made on lives, or they'll have videos of things dropping, right? And they have a facility here in Houston where they take all these videos and pictures, and it happens underwater. It's a huge facility. You can look at it for yourself. You can actually go inside and look on Google and look at all this stuff, and there's just so many cases where they've made a mistake. The wires move. They pull down wires next to the people next to them. And whether people want to believe it or not, sometimes you just have to look from a different perspective and look into things, because I have seen it for myself. I really didn't believe it at first. But the pictures and the wires of them pulling each other down and the things dropping when they're supposed to be floating, and you can see the hair being stuck straight, being gelled up, and all these different things. When, like I said, when you start to see just through your own perspective and through a different lens, you really do start to understand this all, and you do start to understand what these philosophers and what these people that were just so well known to this day are talking about. And I always go back to it because it's crazy how everything ties together. The math, the philosophers, the science, the everything. And back in the day, math and all these things were surround philosophy was the center point. So people understood and knew that spirituality and these things was the center point. But then, right, all this changed when in the 1900s we came out with the foundation and we started to change let's input schools, let's change the way we think. Let's Right, back in the day, you can look up right now, there's people that are in their hundreds that will tell you they were taught about flat earth in school. It was a shift in the world, and people think right now is the what's the word I'm looking for, like the new age, like, or the new world order. No, it was a long time ago when our parent long time ago when they inputted religion in everywhere, and they changed the school systems of what we're teaching your people, and they changed how we grow our food and how our family systems work, right? The feminist movement, all of this stuff plays a part in this, right? The feminist movement, all these things started way back in the day, and it was all part of the agenda. And people don't understand that, but that's the deep part of the spirituality that you get into, that Plato was talking about, that all that Socrates is talking about, that Aristotle is talking about. That is the deep part that they're talking about, that people don't want to look at, because it is very just eye-opening, and you're like, wait, I really know nothing. But I say it's so important because when you do realize that, man, it takes you so deep within yourself, and you realize just the power, like, that your
The
mind.
power of what?
um hmm.
The power of what?
So the power, just for me, so there's an experiment called the 100 monkey experiment, and it's an experiment on consciousness, right? And so for me, consciousness just doesn't start and end when we die. I know a lot of people think that, and it's the scientific part, but I love to tie in science with spirituality. So they did a 100 monkey experiment, and what they did was they had 100 monkeys on an island, and they dropped coconuts in the sand, and they taught one monkey, no, they taught two monkeys to come and rinse them off in the water, right? So after they taught two monkeys, those two monkeys went and taught the other 100 monkeys, so the other 98 monkeys, right? So now all 100 of them are starting to learn how to rinse these coconuts off, right? So after the 100th monkey learned learn this, right? They taught them. On the next island, they were experimenting as well, miles away, doing the same thing. They started to drop the coconuts in the sand. But what they didn't do is they didn't show any of the monkeys how to do it. What happened was the consciousness from the 100 monkeys, once you reach a certain amount of people, you can, therefore, it's almost like it sends a boost, and you can reach hundreds of more people. And so why that story is so important to me is because consciousness is, we're all collective consciousness, whether we want to believe it or not. And what we do in our own life, the power you realize about yourself and the work you start to do on yourself, right? The healing you start to learn about everything. It has an influence on everybody, because the work you do on yourself is influencing everybody, because we're all one collective consciousness. We're all God. It's all one piece. So when I'm healing myself, I'm also healing you. I'm also healing the people in here. I'm also healing my daughter. I'm healing everybody, right? My generations to come after me, because that is how that works. That's how consciousness works. And that's why even kids nowadays are just being more woke and starting to understand things on a deeper level, because their consciousness has evolved and they've come back to grow even more. And so, yeah, that's just what I think.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering. I was curious what you meant by power in this context.
Yes.
So you mean that in your awakening to what you would understand as the true nature of things, despite what they, quote unquote, have told us, in your remembering what actually is, that is you coming to your power and therefore helping others to do the same.
For sure.
I understand. Thank you so much.
I think there's
Do
so
you
much.
believe? Oh, yes. What were you saying?
I was just saying, I think there's so much power in knowing, right? And my philosophy teacher, he one day he was like talking about the difference between knowledge and wisdom, and he simply had stated that he thinks wisdom is something God given, and knowledge is something that you can learn in school. And I was like, obviously, I have a different take on it, and I don't like when people like to think that the 144,000 is a selected group and there's only chosen ones of us, right? Because we are all of us have that within every single one of us, right? And that's what they want to keep pushing, is that, oh, maybe it's only a certain group of people or only the chosen ones. And no, it's all of us. And when we help to share that, it helps to quite literally help the earth evolve, just everything evolve. And I forgot what I was saying before that, but
You were talking about your philosophy teacher's definitions of wisdom and knowledge,
thank
and
you.
you said that you had a different perspective. Would you like to share your definitions of wisdom and knowledge?
Thanks, put me right back on track. Yep. So I was just telling him that I think knowledge is something that anybody can learn, right? Like, for instance, we'll use science. We can learn what we learn in school. Um, you can be told that the earth is globe, but I think wisdom isn't what God gives you. It's I told him it's lifting the veil, and what I keep repeating, it's simply being able to look with your own eye, and that's where wisdom comes in. Being able to look with your own discernment, your own understanding, because once you do quite take that first leap and understand the one thing, which for me it was learning about um, the earth, like the flat earth and the frequencies of the planets. For me, that took me on a scientific path to understanding the Bible deeper and to understanding, oh, I was like, that's why so many celebrities wear Saturn and right, they wear these things on their, but it isn't in that way that we think. It's because Saturn is the planet of
You said
matter.
they wear Saturn. What
Yes,
do
yeah,
you
so
mean?
in a lot of, thank you. So if you look at a lot of like music videos, and you'll notice that a lot of these celebrities, and a lot of times these celebrities are just following the agenda too. They're robots. They have no idea. They're just getting paid, and that's why they get paid so much. But anyways, they wear and they'll have like Saturn in the back of their videos or in their earrings, and just they tried to push it out so much, right? Because of what the planet Saturn does, and they it's just there's a
What's
deep
it do?
um
This is the place to go into it, friend. Don't think that anyone will get bored with what you have to say.
oh, it's not
Please get as deep as you can.
think I will get bored. It's that I just really let me see if I can find something quickly. But
All
right,
right.
like I said, all the planets have a influence on us. And Saturn, I don't want to get on the bit spooky part, but
Why not? That's what we're here for.
well, yeah, but I just you said you don't want to get nobody. Okay, but Saturn is just what a lot of people worship, right? What these people worship because it is the planet of matter. And although we are matter and we're here, that is not the purpose. We are here to evolve spiritually. So we have a spiritual side and we have a matter side. And these people worship Saturn, they worship all that because they know that that's where it comes from. It's all scientific. It's all um I'm trying to find the pictures because the book explains it so well about how they really just worship Saturn, and it goes down to Saturn has a cube on it. So if you just go to NASA, you can look at pictures of Saturn and it has a picture of a cube. And there's just a cube that gets emitted from Saturn. And in almost every like major city, there's a cube in the middle of just like the what do you call it, like a downtown like area, right? A cube, and it's also the cube is also what's on the our hat when we graduate. So it's just deeper meanings of what he talks about in this book, and I really don't want to say I know too much on it because I don't, but just know that they worship Saturn, and if you want to look into that on your own time, or anybody, please do so. And but yeah, all the planets have our frequencies in
You said that Saturn was the planet of physical matter.
matter.
Would you be able to elucidate on what that means exactly?
Yeah, so the luminary planets, um, it's almost just like light sources. So I believe that we are all light beings and we're angles of light. And when you go through these frequencies or planets, if you will, that is what creates. So you go from this and you go through all of them. And then when you get through Saturn, that is what takes you down to physical matter, brings you from consciousness, reality into matter. So that is what I'm talking about when I kind of am talking about Saturn creating, doesn't just create matter on itself, but it is the planet of matter, if that makes sense.
Okay,
It's
that does make sense. Are
just
you
like,
saying that perhaps they worship the idea of Saturn because this is a physical reality? So they
definitely.
are worshiping to get the idea of more physical material, physical stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why these celebrities, right? It's all about the money. It's how. what can we buy? What can we do? Let's flex this. Let's flex this. And it's really like we don't need any of that. Like let's go back to the time where we was just trading, my crochet this for your apples, or you know what I'm saying? But we're in a time now where matter is so material things are so wanted, and so like everybody wants to work and not be in the home with their children. We just want to work and make money. Nobody wants to really like live and be in the present moment. It's always about what can I do to flex on the next person, or what can I do to almost just prove that I'm,
Show how worthy I am. Look
yeah,
how valid I am with all my stuff.
it's
I
all
couldn't possibly be worthless. I have a nice car. I have nice clothes. I have a nice house. Look at
Mhm,
me. Look at my success.
for sure.
I am enough, and my stuff proves it.
Yeah, but that's where the ego comes in, right? And the science part comes in when Sigmund Freud talked about, which I really don't like his take too much on it. I really like Carl Jung's take on it more, which he was a student of Sigmund Freud. But Sigmund Freud would talk about there we have the ego, the superego, and the id, and he would talk about how each of them play a part. But then you had Carl Jung, and I'll just go to him because I disagree with it more. But he kind of had the same idea, but he believes that we all have a consciousness and we all have an ego, but then we all have a collective consciousness. So he believed that ego is where so many people come from, right? When you get triggered because somebody is saying something you don't know, when you get triggered because you're hearing a conspiracy, when you get triggered that somebody pulled out in front of you in traffic, all those things are ego because we're always thinking about self, and ego is simply I. Why did this happen to me? Why did this experience happen to me? And when you shift from ego perspective into the higher mind or higher ego or whatever you want to call it, you understand that everything is happening for a reason, right? And you no longer think from an I perspective. You think from a, oh, I get why maybe that relationship didn't work out, and this person needed to cheat on me so that I can learn this lesson, and therefore I taught them a lesson also. It isn't always about us. It's about how the collective is helping each other constantly. Um, so that's a huge thing to like just take and just think about. We're all constantly
Connected, growing, expanding.
exactly.
Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing your perspective on the planets and their influence on us. I've never heard it put exactly this way. So I am grateful, as I'm sure many are here co creating with us, for expanding our perceptions on the infinity that we are now. What do you think about the idea of aliens, then, or extraterrestrials under this particular configuration of our star system? How do they play a role?
Wait, one more thing before we tap into that. So also,
No,
I don't know if a lot of y'all remember. A lot of y'all are probably young and don't really, but there was also astronauts who got sent to space. I don't know if y'all remember the Challengers. Do you remember Unity?
I
So it
do.
was called the
I
Challenge.
wasn't alive, but I
And
do understand.
it was six astronauts, right? So the only video that we got to see, and I actually looked into this myself. I saw another person that like-minded like me talking about this, and I was like, I always fact check behind myself. Always. I don't care what nobody says. That's just who I am. So what I'm talking about, you can also go do, and I know that it will pop up for you. Okay, so I'm saying this to say that it's factual. So the Challenger, the video that we got to see of them going, it was like six astronauts. Um,
I believe it might have been seven.
okay, yeah, you're right. I think it was seven. So seven astronauts, and all we saw was them go into, I think it was either the bus or the shuttle, but we never saw anything else after that. You just saw it take off and go back, right? So it was a person who did some deep dive and realized that all seven astronauts are still alive. And the crazy thing is, because you got to remember, back in the day, they didn't realize that people were going to start waking up as fast as they are and start diving into this stuff. They use the same names. And when I say I'm getting chills because this is true, it was two people who were twins, and I mean not twins. There was two people on the panel who said they used that it was their twin brother. That they had a twin brother. So out of the seven astronauts, okay, two of you are twins. Okay, cool. It was another one where they actually called the. She's a professor now, and she was one of the people on it. And it was a news report, like reporter interviewing her from when this happened in her voice, and you can hear her talk, right? So she uses the same name, and she's a professor. And I wish I could pull it up, but I do have the information somewhere. But they called her real voicemail in time. Like I don't know how they ended up getting her stuff, but and got her voicemail, and like I'm saying, it's the same exact voice, same person. You know how people just have this distinct voice, but that's not that doesn't say anything, right? But then you just look at all the people. The next guy I looked up, he's the CEO of another company. So when I say this stuff gets deep and these people are all working together because money rules the world and they do worship matter and they don't care and they don't want you to evolve because they know all this stuff and they use this stuff in their own life. The billionaire JP Morgan, he says, millionaires don't use astronomy or astrology, billionaires do. They all use this in their own lives when making plans or making businesses. They look at the stars and the influence and all this stuff. And yeah, I just be getting lost sometimes. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't apologize for being who you are. Well, thank you for adding that part to your overall perspective.
Oh, yeah. But I will send you the video on that because that was actually mind blowing.
I believe it. I believe there are many things that we have done for ourselves and keep ourselves foolish rather than just being honest, rather than just saying what is and allowing the public to use that information because I believe our governments often feel that if we figure out we're going to figure out another and another and another, and they have great fear themselves that it will topple all over and then there will be anarchy of a kind. So I fully believe there are plenty of things that are not quite exactly what we have been told, that might work a little bit differently, that there might be a lot more information included. I would not be surprised if the Challenger event, as they say, was one of these. Did you want or care to share about your perspective on extraterrestrials in
Oh,
terms of the Earth being flat?
I will. I don't. Um, I never dabbled too much into the alien thing just because it's not right. I think we all have just our pasts, the things that draw us in. I did at a point. I've read a couple of things. What I really think about aliens, and I think I've talked to you a little bit about it before, just in our own time. I think that we might be aliens in the future, and that's what it is. It's us in the way. I'm talking way beyond future, and there's a document actually called it's called the Looking Glass, and it's a CIA document, and you can read about it. But it talks about how they use this kind of looking glass thing, and they were able to look in the future, and they were able to see
Hmm.
that we are. What they saw was that the aliens were us, and that the reason why their eyes were so dark was because right, it's evolution. It's just the way that we started to evolve to be able to adapt to the planet and just everything. So just looking into that, there's a great podcast. It's called Y Files. He has a great, um, just clip about it, not clip, but podcast about the Looking Glass. And so yeah, I know that I've heard stories about crashes and I've seen documents. But like I said, I think that it might be future us. And in a way, I think that time is all happening at the same exact time. And I've talked about this before. I think time's an illusion. So I don't think past, present, and future really are happening. So what I really mean by like future self, I really just mean, um,
Alternate now.
yeah, like an alternate now. Yeah, perfect. Like, so in a way, I think, yeah, maybe accidents do happen to where, oh snap, we had an accident, and but I never think that it is. I don't know what I really think about it. I don't really know. I do know that there's a huge agenda to push the alien movement onto the people and to, I know Project Bluebeam, right? I don't know if anybody's seen the Las Vegas sphere, but what they're able to do, it looks so real. The same thing is going to happen with Project Bluebeam. They're going to create a fake alien invasion, and it's already happened in a lot of places. They'll use these drones and just different what's the word I'm looking for, like holographs to be able to put in the sky, and that is why a lot of these videos get pushed out and you see what's happening, but it's all done intentionally. And one thing you have to realize is that a lot of things they do, and I've said it before, is done intentionally to push these agendas that has been around for a very long time, um, written about before I was ever even born. Even in the book that I was talking about, the Committee of the 300, they talk about the agendas being pushed, um, just with everything, dividing the people, politics. With that, the alien movement, they even talked about 9/11 before it happened and about how they were going to push an agenda against, um, like, just different races and like, so all of this has been talked about and planned, and And yeah, and it's really to, they've done experiments on the power of emotion, right? Because everything's energy. And when you get a lot of people, because we're all one collective, when you get a lot of people emotional about something, they feed off of that. And I don't know if people want to get into them being reptilians or whatever, but they feed into
Please
that.
do. As long as there is the idea that we do not need to fear them.
Yeah, no, I don't fear anything just because I just think that I'm always highly protected. And I think
Oh,
that
thank you.
everybody always is, especially those watching. You have nothing to ever fear. Just know that your higher self, God, whoever you look at, always, always, always got your back. And right,
If
the
you are
illusion.
co creating now with us, then trust me, my friends, you have nothing to fear. You are safe. You would be unable to join this live. It would not have synchronistically came into your life if you were of those lower vibrations, I guarantee you. So trust if you are here and now, then you are all well on the boat, ascending upwards. Nothing down below can grab you and bring you down.
And with that being said, I often think that a lot of times we can get that perspective when we get so deep into our spirituality and think, oh, I'm so high that I could never. But in reality, heaven and hell is simply your head and your lower bottom, your lower chakras and your higher mind, your lower mind, your higher mind, the left part of your brain, the right part of your brain. The left part of your brain is all about thinking and doing this. The right part of your brain is about creation, meditation, all these different things. And oh man, I forgot where I was saying, but
You were
oh
talking
yeah,
about the. Yes.
I remember. I remember. It's important to realize that we are not above anybody, right? The same way that tomorrow I could be depressed, even though I'm a spiritual being, right? I think so highly of myself, and but it's always, that's part of reality and it's part of the duality. And I think that the illusion comes in where you think that these things kind of won't happen to you, and they will. Bad is always going to happen, right? You're always going to need to learn lessons, even when you think that you're the most highest, most high frequency person. The lessons are constantly going to have to be shown to you. It's never going to stop. I forget who says it, but he says, "I know that I know nothing." I think it was Socrates. Um, so just knowing that the temptation is real, just with the food that you eat, right? Um, the people you talk to every day, the way that you think about yourself, so it very is easily to get pulled into the dark part. But I want people to know that is just who we are, and we get to make that choice, right? Transmute everything that you go through. Every
Yes,
bad
many people are afraid that something outside of them can bring them down. And I assure them this cannot happen. It is only us, you, the individual, who will choose what energy you create, co create with, vibrate and match in frequency. And if you simply don't wish to be in those lower vibrations, then create a reality in which you're not. Trust in your heart that that's not who you are.
for sure. Because trust me, I used to think that, oh my God, I was like so scared. I'd be looking like, thinking it was a physical thing, like you're talking about, like they could pull us down, and I would be terrified. I had to sleep with the TV on. But
Yes,
yeah,
people are
definitely.
very afraid that something will come out, that unknown, mysterious, imaginary thing from their childhood will come out of the closet and finally get you. Ha ha! You fool! I caught you lacking. I got your ass.
Right.
And I can assure you this will never happen.
And if that does happen, or if you go through things like, I don't know if you've ever experienced like sleep paralysis or any of that,
When I
um,
was younger.
it's simply a projection of your mind. And I like to go back to that because a lot of what we go through is, and and I know, but it's ways of things being able to attach themselves to you because you have to remember your mind is so powerful, and what you think about yourself, whether you're on the outside looking so perfect, your insecurities show up in your dreams. Psychologically, your insecurities will show up in the relationships and the people you see and meet in your life. And yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. Well, thank you for sharing it. You said that you believe extraterrestrials are our future selves. Are they purposely coming back to visit us for some reason, or is it some type of time anomaly, gravitational anomaly? Why is it that we see them?
I think one, it's either like I said, a lot of it is intentional and right, like maybe things are put up or things are put out to make you believe something. And then two, either I think that we're able to see them maybe because it is maybe an accident does happen to where just a glitch, like they just happen to come into our reality somehow, or go from their reality to ours. Um,
Do you
that's
think it can be purposeful?
do I think I do think maybe you have like your maybe your higher self is trying to talk to you in the future and trying to get you to
But I
um,
mean, like, do they, our future selves, have the technology to quote unquote go to different nows? Do you believe
oh,
that's possible?
for sure, I definitely think it's possible. But what I think and why I think they don't, and why I think a lot of this is illusions, is because I think that when we do get to the point of looking like aliens, I think that we will be so highly evolved, we'll go back to a lot of what they knew and believed before time, and we will be living more in the present moment rather than. I don't think they ever want to interfere with what they think needs to happen, right? Because I think everything that happens is for a reason. It's because that's the frequency it's something happening that it needs to happen, right? Like the butterfly effect. So I think when you go back to almost if you're trying to warn somebody or something, or if you're trying to, I don't think that that happens as often as we think, because I think that they just have a higher consciousness of knowing that we need to quite simply go through what we're going through for a reason. There's a reason for everything. Um, and whether we believe that right now, because right now we think from the ego. We don't understand why things happen. So I think that when we do or are evolved like that, we understand that we don't just get to tell everybody or warn them or do these things, because everything's meant to happen for a reason. And that's just my take on it. I don't really think they would come back. And but then again, I don't know. Maybe you could have people that are like, "Oh my God, I gotta go warn them," or maybe it works like that, and they're like, "I have to go tell
Perhaps they're
them."
here to just observe, just to look,
Yeah, and then I think that
just to
there's
see.
already aliens that live here. I think that it's more differently than what I think, because I think that they shift by frequency. I think that everything's almost like a computer and a game. So I think that they shift in that way, and that's why sometimes you'll see them glitch on the TV and stuff. But I think that's what the aliens are. People can call it reptilians or whatever, but it's all in the same type of category. I think so. Yeah, in that sense, I think maybe um, maybe like yeah, maybe they could be just observing or you know.
Yes, perhaps.
What
Well,
what
thank you. It's been about an hour now. Are there any other particular specific theories that you think are worthy of sharing, worthy of connecting to this grand vision of reality that you've painted for us?
Not really. I mean, I had a bunch written down, but they're just all basics. I would tell people to really look into, just main documents that are in books, not just watching stuff on TikTok or just believing everything that you've been told in school. Some books I'd recommend: The Last Voyage. It talks about Christopher Columbus's voyage, right? And it actually makes me like sad to read, because um, we believe, right, that we just know so much, and the book will really go deep into tell you what little we do know and how they have been controlling so much for so long, and how they brought diseases over, and how all the diseases have been controlled for so long. So look into these things, like looking up documents about diseases being controlled. Get the book The Last Voyage. Get the book The Committee of 300. It talks about families being placed in different areas, right? These were all written in the 1900s. Get esoteric books that were written in the 1700s and the 1600s. Um, literally look into people that Santos Bonacci, look into people Jordan Maxwell, look into people Bill Donahue, and he also goes by William Donahue, I think. But these are people that, in my opinion, are truly like lifting the veil and helping people wake up, and it is a small majority of people that will ever, right? Even like you don't believe a lot of the stuff I say, right? And I get it. Um,
It has nothing to do with me believing what you say. It simply has to do with me figuring out what works for me now.
yeah, yeah, okay, okay. Maybe I should have phrased it different. Everybody has their own reality and will have their own point of view and their own perspective, and I get that. It's so hard to even grasp what I'm talking about, especially about the planets and stuff. But I will say, really look into the Challenger thing, look into everything that I've said, and hopefully it can all tie in together. Really look into philosophy, science, all that stuff is what I would really say, and just go on a deep dive to everybody. Um,
Okay. Is there anyone in your live that wishes to come up and co-create with us? I have one person who has been very patient. I'll see if we can co-host and bring up guests simultaneously, and if not, then perhaps we'll just see if there's some questions people have or something they want us to speak on
I haven't even read my
before the
chat.
ending of our co-creation.
Oh, thank you
I'm
so
sorry?
much. Give me just a second to read my chat a little bit. I wasn't reading. Thank you.
I
Um,
thank you all again for those who have joined and who've shared the likes. I thank you for all the gifts. I've seen every single one of them, but I will not be rude and interrupt our co-host here. So I thank you, Taz. I thank you, Sean, for sending your gifts. I'm very grateful. We're almost at 10,000 likes, my friend. So I'm very, very grateful for you playing the heart game with me. I'm happy to play it with you.
okay,
So, is there anyone who wishes to come up?
I don't have anybody to come up. Well, nobody that said anything, and but we could bring up your guest just for a little bit. I really wasn't. I didn't know we were gonna bring on guests like that. You know, I get a little bit nervous. But I'm more than happy
All
to
is well.
with your guests. Um,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your last statement.
I said I'm more than happy to chat with your guests though.
All right. Oh, I can't. I can't do it while having you simultaneously, so I will wait till our part in this co-creation ends to bring them up. But if there is anyone in my chat or your chat that has any questions or anything they wish to speak on, please. This is now the timing to ask, my friends. Any theories you want us to speak on, bring up. Any questions about anything that either one of us has said. Do you have any questions for me?
Um, hmm. Okay, I'll ask. What is the Okay, I'll ask you two questions. It doesn't really have to talk to do with conspiracies, just kind of my curiosity. What
Oh, that's okay.
what would you say is the most profound thing you've learned during your spirituality? And then the next question would be, and what would be the most difficult thing that, almost a dark night of the soul moment that you've had to go through? If you want to, you don't have to. Just two questions. I'm
I
curious.
believe profound is an experience of wonder and mystery and discovery. I believe what we call profound is an emotional experience, you understand, of realizing that there is more than you once knew and that there's even more beyond that. So, something that I believe to be quite profound is I'm trying to, please, if anyone knows the word to the experience I'm about to describe, I'm hoping to coin the word myself. I'm creating a word that describes the psychedelic, dream-like nature of a spiritual awakening, of just that feeling of holy shit, there's more to this, holy shit, there's more to me, and there's even more to that that I don't yet know. That feeling of I heard someone say this 3 years ago and it meant nothing to me then, but now where I am now, what I've experienced and learned now, it changes everything, you understand? That emotional experience of clarity within yourself, you understand? And how it can feel very mysterious and very planned and magical, you understand.
Mhm.
Someone says it's called awe. That's certainly a part of it, but it's not quite the entire definition of what I'm describing. So, this is something that I find very, very profound in my experience is those moments of epiphany, but it's not just the epiphany of, oh, something more, something different. It's the epiphany added with the inner knowing that this would happen, that it only makes sense that you would expand this way, that it only makes sense that this story that you are is being played out this way. It's as if for a moment, for almost an instant, you back out of the story and realize you're the one reading it. Does that make sense? And you flip the page and go, oh, wow, look, there's a story here. There's a purpose here. There's a narrative. And even though it doesn't feel that way on a day to day, moment to moment basis, there's something happening here that's important, that's purposeful. I believe this to be a very, very profound experience that hopefully I will coin another word for if there's not already one. as we are adding hundreds of words to the English dictionary a day.
I love it.
Something that I have found, oh, yes,
I love it. Yep, I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I said, yep, that was a good explanation. I feel the same way.
Oh, wonderful. Something that I feel is perhaps a catalyst to my dark night of soul, which I believe I'm only perhaps just now beginning, or will experience in my 40s through 60s, because I believe I'll live past 100. At least I'll do everything in my power to do that. So I have quite a lot more life to live. Um, is just my remembering that other people's actions and beliefs and perceptions of me have absolutely nothing to do with me. And this applies to every single person in my life, at every single moment of my life. That no matter what they say, what they do, what they think they want, what they say they want, no matter if it's my mom, who's probably the closest person in my life up to this point, or some random person that I spoke to when I visited New York, that each and every one of these people are living their own reality, and that it is my purpose here in healing myself so that I may heal the space to let all personal feelings about their reality go and recognizing that I am enough, have always been enough, will always be enough. That is my very nature. And that no matter what other people say or do, it just has nothing to do with me. And these many belief systems that I've adopted over my 23 years um, are doing everything in their power to tell me that that's not true, to tell me that it's because I'm not enough, because I'm invalid, because I'm inadequate in some way. I believe that this will be the greatest catalyst that I'm now aware of in my awakening. That once I master this lesson, this remembering of myself, everything else will come that much more easy. But because it's connected to so many different belief systems within my reality matrix, you understand why I say I might experience the letting go as a dark night of the soul. That I'll have to really plunge into the darkness to go, oh, of course, it was always and only light. Does this make sense?
For sure. And you'll go through, there is never one dark night of the soul. I'm 8 years in. And just from my own personal and multiple people, it will always, every couple years, it'll be a new thing that is deeper into your spirituality because it takes you deeper and deeper and deeper. So Dark Night of the Soul is that part I remember, and it's a tough part to go through, the letting go of what everybody thinks of you and what your own opinion is, and trying to learn to filter out just the energy around you and the space that you are allowing people to be into. But yeah, the Dark Night of the Soul is hard, but one of the best afterwards.
I believe it. I do think one day, perhaps, for the few who've come to explore that path in that way, there will be a day in which you don't define it as a dark night of the soul anymore. You recognize it as a going within. You recognize it as a expanded awareness, which will always include more of the dark, because that's all there is the dark and the light, the polarity of experience. But I believe one day we will be so masterful of physical reality that even what we now call the dark night of the soul would simply be a few hours of, oh, I've never thought about it that way, or is that really who I am, or what we would call meditation or journaling or whatever. And then we would simply remember that we don't have to experience expansion in that way. Because that's what a dark night of the soul is, regardless. It is you expanding, just doing it in a very particular configuration. I imagine to help release certain things. I imagine one day that we will be masterful enough to just release things, to just go, is this who I am? No, thank you, and then let it go. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's just like when the sun and right why we have winter and why we have summer. During winter, it is that time where you're supposed to let go of all these things and you're supposed to go within and do that work. And why the dark night of the soul or whatever you want to call it will always come about is because you know like I just keep saying, it's constant things that you don't know about yourself that the universe will show you that that you are no better than anybody else in this world. And I've learned that through my spirituality. Even just the beginning when I was first going through my spirituality, I swore up and down that I was so woke, that I knew so much, and I'm so glad that my journey led me not to post and to talk about things that I really knew nothing about, that I thought I knew so much about, and kind of put me on a path to go within. And one of the top videos that's pinned on my page talks about why the dark night of the soul is so important. And sometimes it takes years to go through. And just from my own experience, man, it has been times where it's been almost 2 years of this straight dark night of the soul, and it's because you lose so many friends, people, because you're now vibrating at a different level where those things can no longer even be in your reality anymore. It just can't. The universe won't even allow it, even if you want it to. It just, they will push it out for you, whatever you angels or whoever you want to say. But um, so yeah, it can be a very long time and very hard and depressing, and that's why a lot of people I think go through psychosis during spirituality. And just for anybody watching, if you're going through that, like people in my chat right now or your chat as well, if you're in that moment right now, it, trust me, it's so much brighter on the other side, and it's necessary. And I used to pull tarot cards, and this is kind of just like me ranting a little bit, but I'd pull tarot cards and I wanted the situation to go my way so bad. And the card would always say bird's eye view, or always say something I didn't want it to say, and I would try to control it. And I didn't understand until literally like 2 years ago, when I started to understand now from my perspective the bigger picture that it was talking about. You don't know everything, why everything in your life is happening, why those dark night of the moments or dark night of the soul moments are happening. But very soon you will, and I promise you're going to be so thankful for those moments. So if you're in those moments right now, just know that it can only go up. If you're already low, you can't go low. You can only go high. So that's just the positive side of that. Um, yeah. It's
I
breaking
agree.
up. Hang on, maybe I think you're breaking up. What's happening? I love this love actually. Wait, what love? So basically, it when moral you feel is wrong, but overall you don't think it's wrong.
You
Oh my
see,
god, I heard you for a little bit, but it's a little bit frozen and a little bit staticky. Hello, let me see. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. There it goes. I see you. I'm sorry.
is
I
this
don't know what
good?
happened.
No, it's all
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I can see
It's
you.
not your fault.
But
All
I
right.
didn't hear
I was
anything.
simply
So
asking you. Oh, that's okay. I didn't say much. I just asked
okay.
what your profound experience in your dance has been or is.
Hmm. I would say realizing just who we all are. Like I mean, like deeply, like what I'm talking about in the Bible and all that. Because when you learn that, it just makes you completely, or for me, change my whole perspective. And perspective is really everything in like this life. You could be walking down the street, and the way you choose to perceive that is all on you. That's the alchemy of life. You don't have to look at things negatively. You don't have to do. So the greatest thing for me is truly knowing who we are and being able to tie all these things together. Just having the ability to gain wisdom, all these different things. There's so many things that I could talk about that is, I just find profound and amazing about the spiritual awakening. Just even the healing process you can do and have with your family, right? If you're somebody like me who maybe had rough upbringing or just didn't really get along with your family, it can really help you to heal everything in your life. And I think that is so incredible, to come to that realization and to be able to understand what I came here for. And So yeah, that's huge for me. There's so many things that I could say though, like so many. But yeah.
Well, what's stopping you?
Well, I mean, I don't want to talk forever, but yeah, I think a lot of people have the same type of thing. Just spirituality is hard, but so rewarding is the good word for it. It really is. And I don't mean like by material things, which in hindsight, yes, you do start to gain material things. Why? Because you start to realize that your mind is a projection and it creates that reality for you. So when you start getting out of that lack mentality and you start living in a mentality of, oh, I am rich, and you start, that's why affirmations work, because you tap into that new reality. Um, but yeah, I think it's just, just incredible, honestly. And I know it's only not a lot of people that go through spiritual awakening. I don't think we're all meant to. I think that's part of the duality. I think that just is what we're here to learn, and everybody goes at their own pace. And that's why I used to get so angry when I first went through my awakening and like just talking about conspiracies and thinking I knew so much about the government and just, why can't you listen? Or even when I went vegan, I'd like try to talk and be so aggressive almost in the way that I would come about. And I just learned that simply everybody's on their own time, own journey, own path, and what the universe has called me and what we've agreed to and what I call the blueprint of my own life doesn't mean that that's everybody else's path, right? So a lot of the information that I'm even saying and trying to bring about to people, I no longer want to force it anymore. I only want to attract the people that it's meant to hear, because it's only a few that are meant to hear it, right? Like,
And there's
um,
only few that will be able to listen.
exactly, and truly understand. So yeah, I just realized that, and realized that's what all these people are talking about. And I love to go back to Plato's thing because it's just a huge allegory that makes so much sense with this. That really it is only a small percentage of the people that will listen, even listen to what, right, me talking about the Bible not being really about this and it being about maybe the sun's path of the zodiac sign. People don't want to hear that because, like I said, it's their identity, everything that they know, and it's only a small people that can even hear, that can even be on that frequency to um, receive that information. Because it's been a point in my life where I also was not able to receive the information when I even was introduced to this stuff through one of my boyfriends, like 7 years ago, is how I got introduced to all this stuff. I remember instantly getting furious. When I say like enraged, almost like the guy who read that CIA document and wrote the book, full of rage. I was like, "You don't know what you're talking about. The earth is not flat. You sound like an idiot. You literally are making me so mad." I think we even got into a fight and I had to leave that night. I was like, "You sound so stupid, right?" But then we split up and the universe took me on my own path to continue that and to continue to put things in my life to present that, and so that's just how my journey has started. But I do very much understand the ego part of it and the not wanting to listen and the part where you can't understand it and can't receive it, because I've been there. um but I think if it's meant for you, the universe will always align you with that, and yeah, so
There is one thing I'll ask you from my audience. Someone asked to speak about soulmates, and I know you had questions about this just the other day, so I'd love for you to share your perspective. And then if there's any other questions you have for me, feel free to ask. And then I think it will be the ending of this co creation between you and I for now.
okay. So soulmates, I love to talk about this because I just love love and I think it's so cool. But I will say I don't think it's just soulmates. I think it's twin flames, soulmates, and I also think we have karmics. And I won't say karmic as in the it kind of sounds distasteful. I don't mean it in like really. I think that it just means a lesson needed to be learned. So when I'm talking about karmics, I think sometimes somebody will come into your life and you simply need to learn a lesson from each other. Maybe you need to learn to love yourself more, and the other person needs to love somebody else besides themselves, right? So there's this dynamic where you get into this relationship and you fight and you do all these things, but there was a lesson needed to be learned. So once a lesson is learned or presented to you both, the universe will then start to try to break that up, because it isn't meant to, and you have free will, so you can stay in that relationship all you want to, but you'll feel it in your gut and your soul when it's telling you to leave. and I know that people know what I'm talking about because I've had this experience myself. You'll feel it so intuitively that this isn't who you're supposed to be with, and that is because it was simply a lesson needed to be learned, not that
Why do you think people stay in those relationships?
because we have a codependency issue, and I get it. Nobody wants to be lonely, and when you get comfortable with somebody, you're like, oh, I don't want to start with somebody else, or you just almost get in these patterns and these cycles because right, everything is patterns. Our brain and everything runs off of programs and patterns, what I call them, and just conditions. And we're so due to trauma. A lot of people have childhood trauma, which makes them have these pleasing issues and these issues of where they want somebody to love them, even though they
Complete
can't love
them?
themselves, or all these different things that has to do with a lot of trauma, um, and codependency, and just yeah, a lot of it from childhood, in my opinion. Just even through taking my psychology, like and then also what you think about yourself is what you attract to yourself and what you need to learn. So if you're constantly thinking, um, or even as a divine feminine, if you're constantly in this state of oh, I'm going to work and I'm going to be this hustler and I'm going to do all these things. You wonder why they push this agenda because they know that when you're in that state, you can attract the divine masculine, right? Because you are too much of in your masculine to attract what you want. And energy is just energy. So divine feminine, divine masculine, whatever you feel and yourself is what you feel, but you can attract the opposite when you're too much of in one. So in the karmic relationships, right? I think karmic is one thing that is simply lessons needed to be learned. I think all relationships are really lessons. And then I think you have twin flames, which I love to talk about. I'm going to write a book on twin flames and also.
Oh, that's exciting. What
Um,
about it, twin flames?
so twin flames is more of your soul is split in half. And I could talk about this because the same person that introduced me to this, right? It's usually how it will happen. It will be somebody that usually sparks this spiritual awakening, and you both go through your separate awakenings together because it is simply a soul that is split in half. It's not two separate, like in a soulmate, to where you're complementing each other. A twin flame is simply the other half, the feminine and the masculine, or whatever. It's that other half of who you are, and so a lot of times, especially, you'll have the runner and the chaser, is what they call it. And so I was in the era of oh man, I was chasing. Oh my God, I want my man so bad. Right. And you do the chasing, and even subconsciously when you're constantly thinking about this person. But then I finally realized, and I was like, oh wait, one day I was like, I'm so cool. I love myself. I realized that that isn't the part of twin flame, that it isn't about even being with the person. It's about doing the work on yourself. And when you do the work on yourself, the other person starts to do the work on themselves as well because right, you're two and you mirror each other. So when you do the same work on yourself, you influence that other person as well, just because you simply are mirrors of each other. And I've seen it happen in my own life. I went from being the chaser, to the runner, and I watched it happen. Right, I watched this person try to message me and try to contact me out of nowhere, and it's like you no longer want that because you realize twin flame doesn't mean we're supposed to be together in this lifetime. It means that we were both meant to do the work on ourselves. It's all about learning to love yourself in and out, no matter what anybody says. Not needing to rely on anybody, a relationship, and then simply just soulmates. I think is just I still think it's lessons to be learned, but it's more of maybe this is your person. I don't think that everybody has a twin flame in this life, so I think that's where the difference would be. A
Well,
soulmate.
thank you for the clarification. Somebody asked, do you think it's possible, or rather, a twin flame's job to devalue you? Basically, I assume they're asking, do you believe that twin flames can come into the life to experience negative lessons for the purposes of growth as well as positive ones?
Absolutely. I think that even in karmic relationships, and I think we look at it as negatively here, but I think when we go back to consciousness, we agreed to that before we came here. Almost like a conversation, right? Let's say you were walking past me and I was simply talking about how I needed to learn the lesson of loving myself in this life. And you were like, oh, don't worry, I got you. I will come down there and just do you so bad. You will literally love yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I
I
think
do.
we agree to these things, and I think that it is so beneficial to have somebody break your heart and to tear you down and to right, because it's the duality. It goes back to duality. Without that, you would not know how to love yourself, and you would not know that you had all these traumas and these triggers that needed to be looked at deeper. And So I think that yes, for sure, the twin flame journey is meant to. Man, it will be rough. Anybody that's like, oh my god, I just wish I was in. No, you don't. It isn't what you. It isn't all butterflies, and it's very hard, but it is beautiful to see the work you do on yourself. Um,
Do you believe that there are some who incarnate without their flame, or that there are some who don't have flames at all? They are constantly experienced as one soul.
Yeah, I think that's what I was talking about the soulmates. I think not everybody is meant to have a twin flame, and I think it's maybe more for people that are going to maybe wake up in this life or more on the spiritual side, because twin flame really is a spiritual kind of concept and just a deeper understanding. I I think that soulmates would be the other thing of where you don't have a twin. No, I don't think. I think very little people have a twin flame, and I think because the twin flames were meant to come here to help the consciousness evolve in a way. They had their own they have their own little part, right, of doing so, and I think not everybody is a part of that. I think it's only um, if you feel it and you know it, you will know it and you will feel it. It is nothing that you can try to force or say or be like, oh, this person is. You'll truly know, like intuitively, like, and it will just happen out of the blue, like. So
All right. Well, thank you again for sharing that. Thank you for answering their questions. Are there any other questions you have for me at this time?
no, but thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for co-creating with me. Thank you for being willing to share what you have to say, even if you're not as confident in it as you are in the process of becoming. I'm still very grateful. You may not see it, but many of my audience quite enjoy the song that you have to sing, my friend. So hopefully they come and start singing with you soon.
Thank
I
you.
am very grateful for your coming here and you're explaining your perspective. Again, I've never quite heard the flat earth perspective put that way. I've never quite heard a lot of things you've said put quite this way. So you have expanded my reality, whether you know it or not, whether I believe what you say or not. Trust that you are being of service.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so
Is
much.
there anything else you'd like to share with me or anyone else here before you leave?
I won't. I would just say go over there and follow him, guys. And thank you again. So fun, so fun to create with people and talk about this stuff. So
I agree. Hopefully, we will co create again soon about something else very interesting.
definitely. Okay.
Alrighty. Well, until we speak again, my friend, please be well in your dance.
I'm not quite sure how.
Well, that's okay. Let's see if I can do this then. For this is the first time I am co hosting as well.
Oh, I'm like I don't know how to even because I want to continue to talk to Chad a bit.